Hi, good morning, and welcome to the Job Opportunity Networking session. My name is Zapata, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at SABR. If you hear an accent, yes, there is one, and it gets better when I'm nervous, so just bear with me in this. We want to thank our partners, Major League Baseball, Baseball Info Solutions, Rawlings, Rapsodo, SMT, Baseball Reference, Kinetrax, Pocket Radar, Hawkeye Innovations, the Chicago Cubs, the Colorado Rockies, and the Minnesota Twins. We are so glad to have you listen on this session. Our guest speakers will share listings of positions, advice on how to get into the industry, and how to differentiate yourself from other candidates. Before we start, please make sure to mute yourself and use the chat to ask any questions. Our first guest is John Edmund from the Minnesota Twins. John serves as a data quality engineer in the Baseball Research and Development Department. John comes from a baseball family, having a brother that plays with the Cardinals and a sister that's also an engineer that works with the same organization. John, thank you so much for your time. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey?
All right, thanks, Chanel. Sure. So I graduated from Wheaton College in Illinois with an applied math major and computer science minor back in 2016. After I graduated, I took an internship in baseball operations at the San Diego Padres that lasted until the end of that season. So with the Padres, I had a few smaller analytics type projects, but the primary focus was on player profile management. So that was a lot of adding industry prospect ranks and reports, video clipping, and TrackMan data compilation. And also I had the chance to man the radar gun at home games and attend scout school through the Major League Scouting Bureau back during the 2016 Arizona Fall League. So once the season ended, there wasn't a full-time opportunity. And so I ended up leaving baseball and worked in tech for 3 years. So first I was at a tax software company called Revenue Solutions, where I worked in QA and then as a developer. And that was about 1.5 years. And then I transitioned over to O'Reilly Auto Parts Corporate, where I worked as an ETL developer, which is similar to my position now as a data quality engineer. So in December of 2019 was when I started with the Minnesota Twins as a data quality engineer. And in that role, I've essentially been focused on building out and maintaining our data pipelines, whether that's pulling in new data sources or fixing any issues that we have with maybe changes on the source side for existing data sources. And also I've been supporting our analysts with a lot of query and database assistance whenever they need it.
That's awesome. Sounds like you have quite the journey through the baseball world.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are there any positions, even as an intern, trainee, or full-time that are available for our students?
So we've filled our 8 research and development fellowships for this season. So we don't have any posted at this moment. But I will say that last year we had a little smaller class, but we did end up hiring 4 of those fellows into full-time roles. We're not exactly sure what the future is going to hold, but I will say we do have had an encouraging track record of being able to land a full-time position if you perform well as a fellow.
Do you think that there's anything that you could have done in your career that might be different and could have put you somewhere else?
Well, during the 3 years I spent in tech, I mean, I probably could have been a little more productive. Would have been nice to do some graduate work, or with how many Texas League games I went to when I was living in Springfield, Missouri. That's when I was working for O'Reilly. I probably could have done a better job keeping scouting notes and maybe potentially even doing a scouting blog, just to, have something to show for, pretty much being at every Springfield home game. But at the same time, and also I do wonder what would have happened if I had tried to stay with the Padres for another season. But at the same time, it was nice to be able to go build up more of a technical skill set, which led me to my current role. So I'd say at this point, I'm pretty content with the journey I took.
That's awesome. So I guess you're saying that for our students, let's also build on those skills while we're kind of doing our hobbies like you could have done.
Right.
Cool, perfect. Let's see. In your opinion, what makes a candidate stand out from the rest?
Well, I'd say, well, oftentimes we're looking for somebody who's able to jump right in and be able to add value right away, which I guess would be similar to, when you call a player up, you want them to be able to help you like right away. In addition, I'd say the hunger to solve problems, because oftentimes we're looking at problems that really there's no answer to them right now. Passion, of course, is very important, and I'd say it's definitely helpful to have some SQL knowledge, like ability to run queries in SQL and potentially be able to write Python scripts and code in R, depending on the organization. I know different organizations use different things, but we use a little bit of both.
So how can our students contact you if you're comfortable? Would they be able to add you on LinkedIn? How do you want to do that?
Sure, you can add me on LinkedIn. I think I'm on John R. Edmund III. Let's see. Or John Edmund III, I should say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think that was super valuable for students that want to get into the baseball analytics world. So thank you, John.
Thank you.
Up next, let's see. We have Rob Daughtry and Matt Manocherian. They are from Sports Info Solutions. Rob is the president of Sports Info Solutions and has been with the organization since 2014. Matt is the vice president of research development, and just like Rob, has been in multiple positions within the company. Guys, feel free to take it away.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Yes, thank you for the introduction there. I started my career in journalism with ABC, and back then I was focusing on the automotive industry and the energy industry. But my true lifelong passion had always been sports. Baseball was always my favorite sport, but in general, I loved all competitive sporting events. My drive was to try to figure out how to get into the industry. Back in 1999, I was able to get my break at the sports network, and essentially I was willing to do anything. So although I had experience overall, I was willing to take, the bottom entry level job, and literally said, I will take anything and I will prove myself. And then from there, I've managed to be promoted many, many times and work my way up the ladder. So I am one of those people who went from the bottom of the industry to president of our company. And, I'll say it takes a lot of dedication and effort on that, but, we'll hit some recommendations a little later here, but let me let Matt get us an update as far as his career path as well. Matt, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Sorry, I guess my headphones were blocking me. My background is as a football guy. So I spent 5 years with the New Orleans Saints and the Cleveland Browns as a football scout. I'm sure you're curious how I got into the door there. It was really, I was applying for internships wherever I could find them. When I got out of college, I was coaching high school football. I kept up a blog. And eventually, through a friend of a friend of a friend, the sort of power of loose ties, I was able to get my foot in the door with an internship that was really made for high school and college kids. But from there, I worked my way 2 summer internships later with the Saints into a full-time job. So that's how I got started. I spent 5 years as a scout. And then actually I went back to school. I went and I joined the Columbia University Sports Management program, where I really got oriented towards the future of sports and where they were heading. Vince Gennaro was running the program at the time, the former president of SABR. And he connected me with this company, Baseball Info Solutions, that was transitioning into Sports Info Solutions at the time. And through that program at Columbia, I got connected with this next job. And like Rob, it's been a nice place to be over the last 5 years. We've been growing, and my role, where I started really bringing football knowledge and expertise to the organization that had been a baseball only organization. Now my job spans multiple sports: baseball, football, and basketball. So it's been a wild journey.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you guys hit 2 really important points for people that want to work in the industry. You have to be determined, just like Rob, from the bottom of the barrel to now being the president. And for you, Matt, to have those relationships and not be afraid to, hey, can you help me out? I applied for this kind of thing. So thank you. Let's see. Is there anything that you guys would have done differently in your career?
I thought a lot about that question, and I had a couple of initial answers to it, but last night I really stepped back, and my answer to that is nothing. I wouldn't change a thing. And here's the reason. I mean, I had a goal in life to try to get to my dream job and to have family and all, and I've achieved those goals. So, what I really determined to convey in this meeting is that, frankly, all of the obstacles, the impediments, the things that I had to face, address, that I would kind of like to say, gee, I wish I didn't have to go through that. I realized that is where my experience really came from. And each of those events helped form me to be better prepared to lead and to be able to give better advice to staff and associates within a company. Because if I've not encountered and tried to overcome those things, then I don't really have much of a life lesson to be able to convey to others. So although at first I would have loved to have said, gee, I wish I had, spent more time in graduate school focusing on this skill, or, basically fill in the blank. I think everyone has at least a handful of those. I really determined that those were the items that helped me get to where I'm at now. And in the absence of some of those, I'm not sure I would be as well-rounded and as prepared to help give and pay things forward as I feel that I am prepared now at this point.
Yeah, I would echo that in a way. Chanel, you mentioned, a strength of asking people for help. And that's certainly something, there are a lot of things that come to mind like that I wish I could say, man, I wish I would have done that more when I was younger. I'm constantly telling younger people what you think is being annoying when you're reaching out to potential employers or people you're networking in. It just looks like persistence from the other end. It never looks like annoying. So I tell them all the time, shooters got to shoot, and you got to you miss every shot you don't take. Really, you really do. So those are some of the little things, but more than anything else, I beat myself up a ton when I was younger. I was really worried about where I was going to end up, what the role was going to be. And if I could say one thing to my younger self, it would be somehow to find a way to convince myself to worry less, to be less anxious, to trust that as long as I keep doing the things that drive me and motivate me, then it's going to work out, right? Like the cup of water will find its level. I don't know if there'd be a way that I could go and impart that back in my old brain, because today I have anxious tendencies too. But man, if I could go back and say one thing, it would be just don't worry about it. It's going to be okay.
Wow, I feel like that's so powerful. I am that person too that beats herself for everything. Oh, I could have done this, or I wish I could have said this. So awesome. And Rob, I love that you're like, no, these experiences make me who I am and a better leader for everyone, not only my family, but also in my professional life. Let's see. In your opinion, what makes a candidate stands out. Here we have, let's say, like 150 potential candidates for all your jobs. How could they be like, okay, let me pick this resume from the pile of 400?
Sure. I wanted to kind of keep this as a short, simple list. So I defined one tangible and one intangible. The tangible skill is essentially applying of technical skills, right? Like, I don't want to know, yeah, you took a course in R. I want to know how, after you took a course in R, how you saw that there was either a problem that others are experiencing or you're trying to solve, and how you took that skill and how you went about solving that. And, you know, the process and the application of those technical skills. That's what I look for. I get 1,000 people that tell me that, you know, they know SQL, they know R, they know this, right? But it's those 5 or 6 that tell me how they took that and had an issue and overcame it and applied all of that. That's a key thing that we're looking for in our organization. Now, here's the intangible: integrity. I cannot stress enough, when you're trying to build company culture and you're in an expansion mode and or contraction, doesn't matter what mode you're in, the integrity across the board in your staff. And that starts from an initial assessment, from when you submit that information in and we're reviewing that and we're starting the interview process. We're looking to see, you know, are you a person of your word? Or do you hold honor as a standard? If you're going to grow, and that's our expectation, that in any of our openings, that you grow from within the organization. You know, most of our individuals, you know, have been promoted from within, and that's our first preference. If we can't find someone from within the organization, then they'll, you know, look outside. I wouldn't have gotten my chance if they had someone that could have filled that role, you know, 6 years ago. But the point is we always look there first. Integrity, and essentially, you know, we tend to say things like, you know, under promise and over deliver, I think, is a common phrase there. But at bottom line, I think integrity is a key aspect. We're always looking for that. And that's what fits in, because that's typically how our culture prioritizes in integrity and basically family first too, which they kind of go hand in hand there. You need to be more than just a hard worker. You need to be able to be a more complete person. And that makes for a better, more healthy organization, and is a key part to why we thrive as a company. Matt, please take it from there.
Yeah, it's funny, Rob. We didn't coordinate before we got started, but I think my answers again are reflect yours in a lot of ways, and it's probably not surprising. From a skill set perspective, I want to split it out a couple of ways here and get really specific. For more of our baseball jobs, more of the jobs that require on the field expertise, what have you done? What can you demonstrate on your resume, along with what skill set can you demonstrate that's going to help us be better? So how can you demonstrate that knowledge that you have of the game, along with show a demonstrated passion for this that isn't just, I love baseball and I watched it, you know, growing up. It's shows up on your resume in terms of what you've actually done. On the research side, from a very simple perspective, the stack, you know, we get 100 resumes easily for posting a job. It goes from 100 to the top 10%. And it's really based on the technical skill set. That's going to be the first limiter. And I think John mentioned before, SQL, R, and Python. Those are kind of our big 3 too. Pretty much everybody that works in our organization on the technical side of things is going to have to be proficient at SQL. But then also we say kind of one or the other. If you can also learn R or Python, there are enough overlapping skills in both of those that we can find a good role for you on our R&D team. So we usually try to say, like, the one being SQL and then one of the other 2. When you're looking for a place to start in terms of what you should learn, that would be my recommendation. Taking that all a step back, like Rob said, the biggest thing that we look for is, are you about it? Like, I care about this stuff a lot. And when we hire people, they work when they care the way that I do, the way that Rob does, the way that the people on our team do. This is a labor of love. It really is. And that's the only way that that we find that it works in our organization. We don't pay enough for it not to be that way in our organization. So, and that's, I think, something you find common across the industry. If you're here for the money, this may not be the place for you. But if you're here because this is something you're passionate about, then I think you've got staying power.
I love it. Are you about it? I love it.
Yeah. Oh, if I could just add one last thing,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I think a key part to mention is that several years ago, I, along with a few others, we helped establish an ESOP, an employee stock ownership program. So for context, 20% of the company is owned by the employees.
That helps with that intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, that's a great incentive because if we have to do well then. And let's see, are there any full-time positions, internship, trainees that you guys have available?
Yeah, and I want to make sure Matt focuses. We created a job posting specifically to be announced here today. But at sportsinfosolutions.com in our career section, you'll be able to see we've been in an expansion mode. We just finished hiring about 20 some people for our new basketball division. We have our baseball scouts and their training sessions, and posted up there. There is one more hiring phase here. There's only a few openings left. So if you are interested in being a 2021 video scout, you need to get your application in pretty quick. But you can also start to prep for 2022. But beyond just the video scout positions, which I'll mention that that has been a springboard in the industry. 3 individuals with the Dodgers got rings who were once video scouts. The 2019 MLB Executive of the Year, the general manager of the Rays, was also a video scout. It is amazing the hundreds of people that have roamed the halls that have had that position, that have springboarded into positions of leadership, authority, and respect throughout the industry. We keep a pretty large list of that available as well. But those positions, and I do have a computer programmer position, an entry-level one, that we carved out, and we just started to look for people for that. So if you're looking to get into more of the traditional computer programming and support roles, we have that. But most importantly, let me step back, and Matt, why don't you discuss the position that we really wanted to focus on today?
Yeah, we're really excited to announce a new position that we have coming open on our R&D team. So just a little bit of background. What do we do at SIS exactly? We're gathering data. We're gathering unique data points on all different levels of baseball. And then we're using that data to try to find different insights about the game, whether we're sharing that with our team clients, with the public, fan graphs, you name it. So the new role is an R&D analyst level role focused on computer vision. So this is one of our newer initiatives at SIS. We're really trying to get into the computer vision space. Like I mentioned, historically, we do a lot of data gathering using our video scouts, using their expertise. Well, now we're going to be complementing that with some computer vision and also developing insights based on that, that we can help present to our team clients and to the world. So this is a really exciting step. It's part of our growth initiative, like Rob was talking about. This will be somebody that reports to me and is a part of our R&D team. And as Rob mentioned, not just the video scouts, but also the R&D side of thing has been a great springboard. Lots of people from our team have gone to work for different MLB teams, but it's also a great long-term place to be. This is a full-time position, and I think you can see it's being shared on the chat right now, more information. And please, I know we'll get to it, but please reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. Shooters shoot, we're all about it. I mean, you guys did an amazing job. Thank you. I'm sure our students appreciate it. So thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Up next, we're pleased to have Paul Baines from the San Francisco Giants joining us today. Paul serves as a director of baseball analytics and has been with the organization since 2012. Paul, can you give us a little bit about, again, your journey into baseball?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I grew up in the Bay Area and went to UCLA, did my bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering there, and worked for a few years in the aerospace industry with Northrop Grumman before moving to consulting with Accenture for a couple of years. And the whole time, probably like many of you, I spent a lot of hours on Fangraphs and baseball prospectus and reading a lot of the research that was being done. This is kind of in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And always wanted to try my hand at the game and loved baseball growing up. And opportunities then were in a few different spaces, and I stumbled into one with the Giants where I joined the group as a developer and basically focused on building our internal baseball information systems. So we aggregate a lot of data and video and reports and stuff like that into a system that our front office uses to evaluate players. And that was the first opportunity I had to get in the game and just kind of get a chance to learn what goes on behind the scenes. Was in that role for 3 years and then transitioned into more of a full-time analyst role at the end of the 2015 season. So really was focused on player evaluation, prospective trades, signings, draft, a lot of those areas. And, obviously as the game has evolved over the last, 5, 10, 15 years, the needs across the entire baseball operations group have just escalated. And so we've grown our R&D team over time and brought in new talented individuals to help us serve our different arms, whether it's player development or the major league staff or scouting. So it's been a really fun exercise, kind of getting a chance to work with a lot of really smart people and, kind of build out our team and just try to serve the best job we can for all of our different stakeholders within the organization.
That's awesome. Yeah, I cannot believe you went from like aerospace all the way to now baseball. That's so cool. Let's see. So what would make, now that you have experience building a team, what would make a candidate stand out?
Yeah, there's a few things I think that really stand out. And, Rob and Matt, I think, touched on a few of these attributes in their session. One big piece is technical skills. And really, I think they're the way that, things have shifted with positions, like they've mentioned, SQL, Python, R, those are also the main 3 languages that we utilize the most. And I think the one big kind of separator that we've really looked for is just, to the extent that people have mastery, and not necessarily in 3 languages, but even just in one, or maybe proficiency in one and mastery in another, is really valuable. That really enables an individual to work really efficiently and add a lot of value to the organization upon arrival. Another attribute I think that has been really noteworthy for candidates that we've seen over the years is just the initiative to do their own projects and their own research. And I think that's a good opportunity to take what you're learning in school and actually applying it to something that you may really enjoy. And baseball, obviously, for all of us is a passion. And so having a chance to do your own research and apply those technical skills, whether you're scraping data and doing some analysis into an idea you have, it's not that dissimilar from what we're doing in the office. And it gives you a chance to go through the exercise of thinking through an idea and pursuing it creatively. And then, lastly, I would say that, one big piece of what we're looking for is just differences in perspective. And that doesn't need to be necessarily that everyone has to follow a set trajectory. But, if there are skills that someone has, like Spanish speaking, or things that maybe are differentiators from other candidates, we think that people can have different backgrounds and still have really impactful experiences. And so, while there is some fundamental baseline of technical and baseball knowledge, we've tried to be open-minded about different profiles that can play well for us.
I love it. I sure apply. I speak Spanish. But I don't know SQL or anything, but okay. Let's see. Is there anything that you would have done different in your career? Would you think that you'd still go to UCLA and be an electrical engineer, or, be in the aerospace industry?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think I actually really applaud everyone for being on this call and in this group because I think it shows that there's a lot of initiative and direction in terms of where people would like to take their careers. I think what I would say first off is that like you definitely can learn from any experience you have. And when I was with Accenture, I was using SQL a lot, and it wasn't something that I had really ever intended or enjoyed doing. But the prospect of potentially using that for a baseball job one day was one thing that actually really motivated me. And so, even if your trajectory is not linear and maybe takes a few different paths, I think that there's still a lot you can learn from any experience you end up in. I think that for those of you that are still in undergrad, I think like depending on your school, like one thing we've seen a lot is a lot of baseball programs now are really growing their analytics groups. And, a lot of times the exercises that they're going through to educate their staff members, their coaches, their players are really not that dissimilar from what we're seeing at maybe the minor league level. And so those are opportunities to like get involved. And not every school obviously has a baseball program. Not every school has a program that may be analytically inclined, but there may be opportunities to help with other schools. And that's a nice way to get some exposure before graduation. And then, lastly for myself, I think like just staying as technical as you can for as long as you can is really helpful. I think that if I had gone back and looked at things, I would have probably paid more attention in a lot of classes that would have helped me down the line. So I think, yeah, just trying to kind of keep that longer term vision in mind is really helpful.
Awesome. And we have a question from someone in the chat. If someone does not currently have the skills that we're looking for, so as SQL or Python, what resource would you recommend for those attendees that want to get them, but it's like their first time?
Sure. So there's a lot of really great resources online these days. And, we've looked at, courses from Data Camp and Coursera and, some of the, kind of starter kits that kind of get people some exposure. Frankly, these days, I think that you can really learn a lot just online by kind of Googling your way through things. And there's some pretty good packages out there as well. Like even if you guys go on Reddit, there's a few different kind of examples of people that have done some of their own coding and research. So I think, what I've found is that while learning those programming languages can be rewarding, it's even more fun to apply it to baseball. And so, if you give yourself a project and maybe start with some of these courses, it's a nice way to kind of marry those two initiatives together.
That's awesome. I've never thought of Reddit as a way to go and look for stuff. So thank you, because I'm always on Reddit, but let's see. Do you have any, let's say, full-time positions available or internships, and how the student can get to those applications?
Sure. So we have a few open positions right now. And so I'll just speak briefly to each of them. We have a full-time role as a software engineer in our R&D team. And so this is an individual that will be working really closely with our analysts, with our other engineers to basically build tools and scale a lot of the work that we're doing as an R&D group to our users across the baseball ops department. So it's a really cool opportunity to get, what you work on in front of a coach or in front of a scout or a front office executive. I think we've, opened up that position pretty recently, and should be accessible should be accessible on our website. Another role that we have available is like a performance science analyst role. And this is a little bit of a unique role in the sense that it's a very cross-functional role. It's one that is immersed in the R&D department, but also works closely with medical, strength and conditioning, the coaching staff to use a lot of the newer sources of data we have these days. So in this role, we're looking for an individual with good kind of analytical background, technical skills. The one kind of big differentiator here is we are looking for someone with experience in like the biomechanics space or kinesiology or just kind of human movement and performance. So it's a little bit of a different skill set, but it's an opportunity to work with some really cool data and just have a chance to be on the cutting edge of a lot of where our research is going these days. We don't have any active intern positions right now, but that being said, I'm always happy to be in contact with anyone. These roles can pop up at different times, and it's always helpful to just kind of get to know people for future opportunities.
Awesome. And then I have one more question for you coming from the chat. When looking at self-projects and reports from prospective applicants, is there any specific deliverables you'd like to see that stand out, or specific boxes that need to be checked?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think one thing that is helpful is, for projects that maybe involve technical skills, like, checking your code base into Git is a nice way to demonstrate, the work that you've done, and gives us a chance to get a sense for what your style looks like, documentation. And so that's a nice way to almost put a portfolio out there. I think the other piece that can be, helpful is just having, doesn't need to be a blog per se, but like an article or something to kind of walk through your thought process. We're always looking for creative thinkers and people that not just can come up with an idea, but can execute it. And so describing kind of the process and the experience you go through when solving a problem is really helpful. It just gives us a chance to better understand, hey, if this individual is part of our group, like, how might they attack a problem that we give them? And I think we really like to see kind of the train of thought that someone goes through. And it doesn't need to be, hey, I tried method A and it worked and gave me answer B. I mean, a lot of our space is finding paths that maybe don't end up working, and persevering and trying to find different alternatives that maybe yield something interesting. And oftentimes we learn that we didn't learn anything interesting, or it wasn't anything worth reporting on. So I think just going through the exercise is valuable, and gives you some experience into what it's like to work in these groups.
Thank you, Paul, so much for your time. A little bit of the takeaways that I got from your little session: have initiative, be creative, and do all these projects so that you can have something to show up for too.
Awesome, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Let's see. Up next, we have our guests from Hawkeye Innovations, George Baines and Dan Cash. So George is a senior project manager, and Dan works as the director of US operations. Guys, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll kick us off. So as you can tell, I'm not American. I am English, and so is George. I came over here 7 years ago. I started with the company 10 years ago on tennis. Traveled around the world. I've been to pretty much every continent except for Antarctica. Following the tennis tour around, working on our tracking system within tennis. 7 years ago, we got our first opportunity in the US. Hawkeye did, in baseball actually, but it wasn't baseball tracking. It was the replay. If you remember, 7 years ago, they kicked off reviewable plays. So I came over here with our founder, and we kind of set up an office. It was just me and him, and then a couple of others to begin with. And we kind of went from 2 people to, we're pushing on 40 now. So we've grown quite rapidly over here in the US. And now we don't just do baseball. We do NASCAR, NHL, NFL, MLS. I'm sure I'm missing some NBA. Basically all of the big American sports. So, and we've got various different products within. So we do our typical replay product, which is what you term video review. And then in baseball, we have our tracking systems now that's providing data that I'm sure Paul was alluding to, the biomechanical data that we are generating from our system now. And yeah, this is where we find ourselves. We've got an office down in Atlanta. I lived in Pittsburgh for a while, so I'm a huge Steelers fan. Anyone that's a Ravens fan, unfortunately, they can't work for our organization. But you can apply. But now we're down in Atlanta. We have an office in West Midtown for anyone that knows the area. And yeah, we are growing. So we do have roles available to start ASAP. So those that are interested at the end of mine and George's spiel, you can apply and we'll get in touch. But I'm going to hand it over to George now, so you don't have to listen to my dulcet tones anymore. So George, take us away.
Cheers, Dan. So yeah, as Dan sort of alluded to, not American either. Started off in 2015 on the Goal Line Technology project over in the Premier League, and became operations manager for the Champions League project, rolling out our GLT across all of Europe. I actually in 2017, I think, went out to Australia to be operations manager out there, with their wide array of sports that probably no one on this call has ever heard of, with Aussie Rules football and NRL rugby. And then, yeah, came over here two years ago to basically kick off the baseball tracking project that is growing pretty rapidly over here. So yeah, we started, it was just myself and one other person on baseball tracking in 2019, and we're now at 18 people, hoping to get to sort of the mid-20s in really the next few weeks. So as Paul has alluded to previously, is teams are really interested in the biomechanical aspect that the Hawkeye system can provide. I think it's going to be a big step and sort of big next step for baseball to both get player tracking, ball tracking, and high frame rate, bat, skeletal, all part of data, all from Hawkeye. So yeah, that's basically what we're trying to do. And the roles that we've got available, specifically within baseball, are coordinator positions. So effectively providing tier 1 operations for the major league. We actually operate that system. So they contract out to us. We set everything up, make sure everything is calibrated and running properly, and just hand off all the data to them, which is what you'd see on StatCast. And then for our team systems, we take a step back. We're more tier 2. So any sort of questions or concerns that they have, we step in and answer. And then any sort of data analytics, data questions that they have, we'll set up, or we'll try and solve, basically. One of the big things that we're really looking forward to is pushing into this analytics space, which if I've got time at the end, I might try and share a quick video of where we're going with that. But really what we're looking for, people coming on, usually, like everyone here has said, are really interested in baseball. And like, to be honest, Dan and I probably didn't care about baseball until a few years ago. And I still think there's too many games in a season. Like, you need to cut it down. Do it more like football. But I'm probably preaching to the wrong crowd on that one. But yeah, we sort of break it down into, like, you've got problem solving, initiative, communication, and then you've got sporting knowledge and technical knowledge. And it's great to have that sporting knowledge and technical knowledge, but you probably have never used the Hawkeye system before. And I'd probably be very surprised if you have. And it's something that we want to teach people. So if you don't have that technical knowledge, it's something that we'll teach you throughout the first couple of weeks, months of the job. Obviously, sporting knowledge is great to have for that context, but again, it's not necessary. What we're really looking for are people that are resilient, good communicators, take initiative, problem solvers. Just because a team will come to you with a problem that you've not seen before with our data, and we need to do investigation to work out how to fix it and how to make sure that they get the best data possible, so that they're doing the best analytics. And obviously you can't really teach that or have that skill from the outset. But yeah, that's pretty much the summary of the roles that we've got open. Obviously, there are others outside of baseball, but I'll keep it just to baseball for the time being.
So you're saying that you don't want a lot of games in the baseball season, but you kind of want to follow the same, like have many tournaments like UEFA and then Premier League and then La Supercopa.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I got sent every official baseball game from someone at MLB for our schedule, and there was 10,000 games. And he goes, "Oh, this is a quiet year since the minor leagues have been redistributed. It was 18,000 a few years ago, which is it's a lot, but it's a great opportunity, obviously, for people just to get involved. Like, it means that we can grow. And as Dan sort of says, we've gone from, well, 7 years ago was 2 people.
really, we've doubled in the last year. And the idea is that we keep trying to grow. So the hope is that people come on. The role that we have is a 9-month contracted role. But the idea is that with the growth that we have is that those start to become permanent. We want people to come in and be part of Hawkeye, be part of Hawkeye's culture, and not just see it as I'm here for the baseball season, tick, right, I'm off somewhere else. Like we want people to have a career, and we want to try and foster that growth within people as well.
Sorry, I'm looking at questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we have someone asking, is being an international a potential thought on the mind of the hiring staff, specifically for the visa sponsorship?
Sorry, say that again, Chanel.
Sorry, it's my accent. So is being an international a potential thought on the mind of the hiring staff, especially with the H-1B visa sponsorship?
We are an international company. Yes, our headquarters is in London. We have offices in every continent. George said he worked in Australia for a while. What we do here in the US is typically just US domestic stuff. Our tennis team is based out of the UK. Our traveling cricket team is based out of the UK. Badminton, volleyball, all the Olympic sports are all out of the UK. So from our perspective, we're not necessarily looking for anyone that has an international passport, a passport that's not the US, because most of what we do, well, I say most, 99% of what we do is in the US. And really for the roles in baseball, it is 100%. It's only really on the other side of our business, a video replay, where people have the opportunity to go to the Olympics, which we have someone going to the Olympics this year. And you have the major soccer, not football, soccer tournaments like the World Cup that we also send people to as well. So it's not a necessity, no.
Awesome. And I know that we have less than 5 minutes and you guys wanted to show a video. Do you want to share your screens and do that if possible?
Yeah, let me try and do that. Share screen. There we go. I think I have it. Let's go screen 2. Cool. I think you can just see my background at the moment, so let me move that
Yes,
over.
we can just see your background.
Excellent, just what you want.
It's a lovely background though, George.
Thank you. So yeah, this is our biomechanics product that we're trying to get going at the moment. As you can sort of see, you've got full skeletal rendering in 3D and overlaid over video. And you can see the graphs at the bottom of like basically whatever joint angle there is from any player on the field, obviously mainly pitcher and batter people are looking at. But you can basically now with our software compare 2 pitches and see the different movements throughout a submarine pitcher, whoever's pitching over the top of each other. That was a very quick batting one. That's obviously still in development a little bit. But this is our Sony C product. You can see all the poses across the whole field. And this is what teams are using. I think if you do hear some sound, this is actually part of our automatic balls and strikes system that's being tested out in Arizona with MLB. So we're basically providing MLB this data. And the idea is that obviously you can just ABS it, get rid of the umpires, which is I don't think we've got enough time in the 2 minutes left to get into whether that's a good idea for baseball or not. But this is our bat tracking. As you can sort of see, you've got the full 3D recreation on the left, and then finally some of our hit tracking and full skeletal across the whole field. But this is basically the system that Hawkeye provides, and that we would want people here to be supporting and basically setting up, being the face of Hawkeye, chatting to people like Paul. When Paul comes to us with questions around how does this work? We want to see this from the data. Can you develop X, Y, and Z, basically?
Oh, that's very impressive. We have a lot of reactions on the chat like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, guys. You guys did an amazing job, and thank you for sharing all this valuable tips for our students.
No worries. Just to finish off, obviously with the open positions, I can post those to the chat so that they can see those. It's on the Hawkeye website, and if you do want to reach out, Dan or I are on LinkedIn to find us. Just search for our names, and be more than happy to reach out to anyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. And last but not least, we have Rob Nyer. He's the commissioner of the West Coast League, an award-winning author, longtime ESPN columnist, host of SABRcast, our podcast, and also a SABR member. Rob, take it away. Where is Rob? Just 1 second.
Here we go. Sorry about that. And I apologize for the light. I've literally never seen the sun here in Portland come through this window. So it was quite a shock when I walked in here this morning. So yes, I am the commissioner of the West Coast League. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with summer collegiate baseball. Probably most people, if they know about summer college ball, what they know is the Cape Cod League, which of course is talent-wise the top league in baseball. We are the best league by pretty much every metric. We've looked at all of them west of the Rockies or west of the Mississippi. And we've got 15 teams ranging from starting this year, Edmonton up in Alberta, across British Columbia. We have 4 teams in BC, including Victoria, which is just a lovely place in the summer, having been there a few times. And then we have, I always have to look at the number, 7 teams in Washington, including a team in the Portland metro area, and then 3 teams in Oregon, including a team in Portland, the Portland Pickles. Also a team in Corvallis that plays in Oregon State's ballpark. So geographically, it's by far the biggest league, summer collegiate league. It's probably the league that best mirrors the actual minor league baseball playing experience. So why am I here? We have a real commitment in the West Coast League to technology and player development. Most of our teams are going to have this season TrackMan in their ballparks. All of our teams are going to have Synergy, which is a video system. And we run into the same issues that every baseball team with technology runs into. And that is, how do we take all this data, this information we're getting, and convey that to our coaches and our players? And 2 years ago, when 6 of our teams had TrackMan, some teams were able to really get a lot out of it, and some teams weren't because the coaches just didn't have the bandwidth to sift through all that data. So what we were going to do starting last year, but didn't because we didn't have a season, was try to find some what we might call conduits to come and work with our teams. And I believe it was Paul mentioned the job title Performance Science Analyst. So I'll steal that unofficially, at least for this little talk. And that's basically what we are looking to fill. Some of our teams are looking to fill this summer as well. I'm sure that's not what we'll call it. And every team will have a different job title. I don't come here representing the league so much as representing a number of teams, the actual number not yet determined, but who will be looking to bring some people in, essentially to work with this data, and then look at this data, get it into digestible forms, and then share with our coaches and maybe our players. And I should mention too that the coaching staffs are highly professional. Just to give you an example, 3 of our teams we call them head coaches, not managers at this level. Our head coaches are ex-major league players. So some real heavy hitters, sometimes literally coaching our team. Just a really great chance to work with some people who have been in the game for a long time and accomplished some amazing things. Let me see if I had anything else I wanted to hit for sure. That's what I had in my notes. So I'm wide open now.
So, Rob, how did you get to become the commissioner of the West Coast League?
I'm not exactly sure because I am absolutely not suited for this position at all. I am a writer by trade and did that for a long time and still do it. I gave a talk at a baseball banquet about 3 years ago, and at that exact moment, the West Coast League was looking for a new commissioner, and someone was in the audience who was in the league, and for some reason thought I might be a good fit, and so I gave it a shot. I needed something to do that summer, and that was 3 years ago. So somehow it worked out. I'm still sort of in shock.
So again, relating to Matt's advice, shoot your shot. Let's
Yes.
see. We have people in the chat asking where would those positions be posted, and if we are looking for, or if there are more openings coming from the individual teams or the league.
So there's a possibility for one league-wide position that would probably be focused more on looking at shaping up our league data and trying to sift through it and maybe get it into a form where, for example, it would be appropriate to add to baseballreference.com. So that would be more of a, I'm not even sure what you would call that. Most of you probably would. A different skill set, I think. But there's a potential for a league-centric position. The great majority of these positions, as we envision them, would be with the teams. I think some teams are open to a remote situation. I think most of the teams interested would prefer someone to be on site and able to, at least when the teams are at home, be at the ballpark every day working with the coaches. And again, we have 15 teams all over the Northwest. You can sort of look at a map and cherry pick and say, I'd love to be in Bellingham for a summer. And by the way, that's another great place to be for the summer. One of the great things for this group, I think, is that our season doesn't start until June, right? So it matches up with the school schedule pretty closely. And I wanted to mention too, one thing I did forget was I can't actually talk about it yet. Probably that'll be 3 or 4 days from now, but we are about to announce a partnership with a player performance institute that I suspect everyone here is familiar with, and that's going to be another exciting opportunity. It'll sort of open up the data for our coaches and any analysts who are working with us. So it just all sort of fits in with our general mission, which is to be at the forefront of the technology thing, at least in the summer collegiate world.
Awesome. So we have to be looking out at the news to see.
There should be a press release Tuesday. That's my
Tuesday.
hope.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll put it in my calendar. And then, how has your work as a writer carried over into your current role? We have someone that's a huge fan of Powerball.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thanks for the question. I could go on about that for a long time, but I won't. As I said, I probably was not well suited to this job when I got it. I think I've grown into it, at least to some degree. But the one thing that has helped is I essentially work for 15 teams. And some of those teams have more than one owner. So we're talking about more than 15 people that I basically work for. And I think what they want as much as anything is someone who will listen when they have a problem. And I didn't actually really train as a journalist. I sort of had to grow into that as well over the years. But at some point I realized that writing blog posts just wasn't that interesting anymore. And what I really wanted to do was be an actual reporter and talk to people. And what that really means is listening to people. So I think that wanting to be a journalist wound up being helpful in this job, because a lot of my job is just getting people on the phone and trying to help them work through whatever issues they might be having, and that's mostly about listening.
I love that. Yeah, most likely people would come up to you and just wanting to be listened to. Well,
Right, and then frankly, the podcast I do for SABR is sort of the same thing. I mean, it's sort of me just asking a question and then listening for 5 minutes and then coming up with another one. So I have sort of made some interesting career transitions over the last 4 or 5 or 6 years, which is great because I didn't really want to do the same thing forever.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for your time and your valuable tips. That will do it for this job opportunity panel. We want to thank our amazing speakers for their time and their advice. Our hope is that you found the session to be incredibly insightful as you navigate your careers towards the analytics industry. So a few items to look forward to, as we're not done yet with the conference. Tomorrow, we will host a student breakout session so that you can get some one-on-one time with your peers, because at the end of the day, you never know who your next boss would be, and it could be someone that's sitting right here. So enjoy the remaining of the programming, and please keep in touch. Thank you, guys.